What's up, creature designers? Welcome to another creature design tutorial. This time we'll be starting our image without using lines. So if you've seen my drawings before, I typically start with a loose pencil sketch to give me a rough idea of the direction I'm going in. This time I use a soft round brush. and lay in the large masses with a mind to the overall forms. Creature design head has started to emerge. At this point it's a case of going in with lights and darks to start accentuating the separations between the forms. The colours chosen at this point are kind of mid to dark greys. I'm staying away from the bright whites at this point because I know that the background is going to be a strong light source, and the form that we're seeing on the viewer side is in effect in shade. So I pretty much stay with this single brush all the way through. It's the soft round brush on 80% hardness and pressure sensitivity. I vary the size using the bracket keys in Photoshop, making it larger and smaller. As I progress through the forms, I try to establish the core shadows. As you can see on the spikes on the back of the head, there's a dark that runs down the centre. On the upper surface is a light grey, and on the bottom is a little bit of what will be the reflected light. So at this point we're working on the ear. Now as the ear projects away from the head and it's stood on the shadow side, the only light it's going to catch is the edge which is closest to the eye. Colours at this point, I'm thinking grey, blue, red and yellow. So even though there's no colour at this point, I've got that in mind, and I'm also conscious of the fact that yellows are quite light if they were converted to grayscale. Blues and purples are quite dark, so the shadow areas will get a bit of purple, as you'll see in a little bit. With regards to anatomy on this creature, the head itself is quite basic. The skull is quite rounded with a little bit of a muzzle. The eyes are set quite forward, kind of to imply it's a bit of a prey creature, but not so much that it's forward facing eyes, if that makes sense. So as I work around the image, I'm trying to balance the darks by putting a light next to them. The surfaces which are facing down, the reflected light isn't so strong that it's going to put a halo effect around the creature, but it's just on the edge of the forms to show that there is some environmental light influence in it. Not much attention paid to the background on this one. I kind of wanted to imply looking out of a cave or some cloud sort of effect, but again, if you want to recreate this image, you can focus more on the background to suggest the sort of environment that this creature would live in. So working on the head, trying to start creeping up on the lights. So the brightest lights are going to be where the form changes angle, and the facing side that's towards the light will get the brightest light. So a bit of texture added to the spikes on the back of the head, just dots of white, same brush, and then I go back in with a darker colour just to the side of those highlights to show that they're casting a little bit of a shadow. Here we are tidying up the edges of the form. That's the only drawback of approaching this drawing using tones rather than starting with lines, is that your edges are not very well defined. You could begin by using a hard round brush instead of a soft round like I am, but I find the soft round brush helps trick your eye into seeing forms early on when there aren't really many there. So here we are using the liquify tool. I'm pushing the background into the edges to tighten them up a little bit, but I'm also using it to reinforce the gesture line that flows from the creature's muzzle to the spike at the back, and from the cranium or the top of the head down to the shoulder. I'm conscious that the curve needs to be a kind of C curve from the head to the shoulder, and a wavy S curve from the muzzle to the spike at the back. Now I'm playing with the background. I've kind of established the tonal range that my creature is going to have, but in order to separate where they are on the edge of the forms, there needs to be a darker background to help them stand out. And where the colours are dark on the edge of the form, I've kind of tried to blend them a little bit with the texture of the background. So as I said, the background itself wasn't the focus of this this drawing. The exercise was to start without lines. Here we can see I'm tweaking the brightness and contrast. I'm conscious that the lights are working on the creature, but that little bright spot on the forehead is a little bit too bright at this point, and I go back in later on to dial that down. So as we mentioned, the colour choices, red, blues and yellows. I wanted the ear to have some kind of focus, so I made that red. The top of the head, where it's more bony, has got a blue, and the skin or the flesh of the shoulder and the throat has got a yellow. The colours I use are set on overlay mode, so it keeps the value of the grayscale beneath, but influences the image with colour. So playing a little bit here with colour modes. The objective is to warm up the face and cool down the background. So my choices were green for the background and red for the face. Here I am adding a little bit of the reflected light on the back and blending the colours in the face between the shadows and the forms that are catching the light. I've done a side profile for this one, mainly because I wasn't interested really in showing the dimensionality of the creature, more that the silhouette was strong and the emphasis was on the ear and on the eye. So the background was feeling a little bit too sharp at this point, so I used a radial blur and a couple of gradient masks in order to take the sharpness away and give the focus back to the creature's face. Here I am just adding a little bit of texture and noise, that you don't introduce too much blurriness on the image. Here's an example around the lower part of the face where the noise caused a halo effect to apply. So what I did here was use the clone stamp brush to sample the background and cut in on the forms of the creature. So at this point we're pretty much done. I'm happy with the balance of the colours, the tonal range and the overall form. Quick signature, quick border, and that's it. So here's the final image. Hope you guys enjoy it. Rate, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.